So I remember going out to like a club with my friends, and we're walking around the club, and I went into the club and we walked around, and I saw people dancing and drinking and girls walking around half naked, but it was empty, because it was like, you're all gonna die. You're all gonna be where that guy is.
So it's like pointless.
Yeah, it was like frivolous. It was like, this is pointless. So I'd left there at 6 o'clock to go to church. When I come back, I told them, I'm a Christian now, I'm saved. I said, I'm saved. God's told me to throw away all my music, so I'm gonna throw it away. So I put it all in a bag. They thought I was nuts. I said, just to let you know, I can't party with you no more.
Wow. How did they respond to that?
They thought I was crazy. The night I got saved, I did all of that. Never turned back, never drunk again.
Welcome to the Gen Lit podcast. My name is Brandon. I'm going to be your host today. My co-host today is Pastor Brian Castillo, and we are going to be interviewing Pastor Courtney Lowe all the way from Wandsworth in London. Hi, Pastor Courtney. How are you?
Very well.
Good.
Glad to be here.
I'm glad to have you. We're glad to have you.
Yeah.
You just preached a powerful one-day revival here in McAllen, and we're actually gonna have you for tonight for a men's class, right?
Correct.
And so we're very excited. We got to get our all our footage for today's podcast, and so we got a lot of questions for you. Very curious as to your walk with God and how that came to be. I'm hoping that could probably be the launching pad for our conversation. So my question to start off this podcast is, how did you, or actually, what was it like growing up in Wandsworth, London? Did you grow up in Wandsworth?
No, I didn't grow up. I grew up in London, but I grew up in another borough, but it was pretty much the same. It's South London. I grew up more southeast. Wandsworth is southwest. But
Okay.
it's pretty much the same experience.
Same experience.
Yeah.
Is there like different demographics separating the boroughs?
Not really, no. Not massively, no.
Oh, okay. So what was your experience like growing up in London prior to coming to the church?
With me, I would say that is where I grew up is kind of inner city area. And so I grew up with my mum. And so it's like a single parent. And
okay.
we where we lived would be like what we would call council. So it's like government housing. And so my mum and dad met. They were boyfriend and girlfriend. They were never married. And then they had me, and it didn't really work out. They're not bad people per se, but they just didn't really work out. My mum, as I was growing up, she had some issues with alcohol and things like that. So I didn't really go to school. I didn't really, there was no direction for me. My mom was dealing with her own problems and that. And so as I grew up, I kind of fell in with the wrong crowd, and just, I don't want to play it down like it's standard. It's not standard for everybody to get in trouble with the police, but I wasn't like, a gangster or anything like that, part of the cartel or nothing like that. But, it's just this standard inner city lifestyle where you're just not really doing well in school, and you're getting in trouble with the police, and there's no direction for you. And my life was just like that. My life was just directionless.
Okay, so it had to have been difficult having a single parent raise you. Were there any siblings involved, or you're only child?
My sister is 10 years younger than me.
Oh, okay.
So, and we don't have the same dad. And so that there's when she's 10, I'm 20. So I've already left home by that time. So 10 years is a long time. But my mum got saved. My mum actually became a Christian when I was about 10 years old. So before that, I saw a lot of just, things a kid shouldn't see.
Okay.
And the way a kid grew up, And so my mum had a lot of issues. So from time to time, she couldn't look after me. So the government would have to come and take me, and then they'd put me in like a children's home for a period of time. Then my mom would get better, and then I would go back with her.
What were those? How long were those periods?
Pretty much on and off. The longest was, I think once I was 12, I went away from 11 till 14 14, 15.
Wow,
But I'd
so
go
these
back
are
and
long.
yeah, I'd go back and visit her like in the summer.
Mm-hmm.
In the summer, but I was like away most of that time.
Okay, so there's this kind of like broken home that you're trying to grow up in. Your sister then comes later on in the picture. What was your relationship like given that kind of situation? Like, were you having to look after her, or was the government taking you in these long bits to where you didn't really have the opportunity to like be a part of her life or anything like that?
Yeah, I think it was probably I wasn't part of her life as much as most brothers and sisters were. When my sister was born, you know, there were very few times where my mom would just, she wouldn't be fit to look after my sister. So I had to, when I was about 9 or 10, I had to look after my sister. My mom just wasn't fit. Like she'd come home and she'd be drunk and things like that. So my upbringing was very dysfunctional.
Yes.
That's the best word I would say. It's highly dysfunctional. Things like at the age of 8, I would leave the house by myself and just walk around.
And was that
London.
normal back then, or that's?
No one would be doing that. It's just I would sneak out the house.
Oh,
But
wow.
it's just a dysfunction. By the age
Yeah.
of 12, I'm smoking cigarettes. By, I think earlier than 12, I'd smoke cigarettes. I think by 12, I was drinking, 12, 13, I was drinking alcohol, getting drunk.
You're getting into your teenage years. Your mother started her relationship with Christ around 12, 13.
Bit earlier than that. So she would have been a new convert by that time. She'd been about a year saved. And she was radically saved. She got radically saved. She got rid of her boyfriend. We'd have no worldly music in the house. And she didn't get saved in a fellowship church. She would go and witness to people. She would go to, in London, there's a place called King's Cross. That's where like prostitutes go. And so she would go there off her back and go witnessing to prostitutes. And so she was on fire. I thought she was the weirdest. I hated it.
Yeah.
Because I'm like 12 and she's witnessing to all our neighbors. And I thought this one was a weirdo. Like I just really, I did not want to be around her.
So that was your introduction to the gospel, right?
Correct.
So when you find out about the gospel through your mom, is that how you get saved? How's the salvation story?
So basically, that was my introduction to the gospel. But unfortunately, the churches that my mom kind of went to, they never really had any men there. I can't remember seeing any men.
Yeah.
And so I always believed there was a God. I've never been an atheist. I always believed there was a God. I think even part of me probably thought I was a Christian. I didn't get saved till I was 22. So most of my kind of like teens and into the 20, 21, 22, if you would have asked me, I would have been like, yeah, I'm a Christian, man. But
Right, like a cultural Christian.
Yeah, I don't pray. I don't read my Bible. I don't go to church. I'm not living morally clean. I'm stealing. I'd rob everybody and anything that I could get my fingers on. If I saw something that I would take it. But I mentally agreed that there was a God and that God was Jesus. I mentally agreed. No other God. I didn't want to be a Muslim. I didn't believe in being even I remember before I was saved, I was about 17 and someone said they were atheists. I said, that makes no sense.
Right.
That makes no sense. So I think there was a grace of God on my life that I had that mental ability to grasp God, but I just didn't understand. I guess it was my mum's religion.
Right.
So, and I saw my mum do this radical shift. And, I was 12. I don't want to be like going around witnessing to people at 12.
Yeah,
I'm listening to
it
Public
had to have been
Enemy.
confusing.
Yeah. To me, I want to listen to Public Enemy and Run DMC and LL Cool J. And this is my music, man. I don't want to be like hanging out with the pastor.
Okay. Hanging out with the pastor.
Yeah.
So you grew up in this dysfunctional home. Your mother gets saved around the 12, 13 age range. It has to have been confusing, right? But you go your teenage years still in dysfunction, but then you say you come to salvation at what age?
22.
22. Was there a defining moment that brought that decision upon you?
looking back now, I've thought about this. I think there are two things that happened. I think by the time I was 22, I think I'd done a lot. I'd done all types of things that the world would offer you. Like I said, I started, I think I started things very early. So by that age, I was just like, it just doesn't make me happy. Like I've gone through all these things. I've gone to different types of clubs and parties and, all the things that you want, clothes and girls and hanging out with people that you think are cool. And I just found it very empty. And then I remember where we lived is like, there are apartments, they're government housing, but they're tall apartments. So you have floors, and in each floor there's about 5 or 6 apartments on that floor, like a hotel. And so we grew up, and our next door neighbor was a guy, and he had 2 kids there, and he died. But no one knew he was dead, so they found his body. He'd been in there for like 2 days, 3 days.
Wow.
And so I went home, and the police were like, "Do you know the family here?" Because they were next door to us. We said, "Yeah." And said, "Could you wait here until the daughter comes home?" So we waited there till the daughter comes home, and I was older then, and they said, "Come in and help her identify her father." And so as soon as you went in the house, I'd never smelt a smell like that. Like it was like nothing I'd smelt.
Like the smell of death?
Yeah, but the guy's been there for like 2-3 days. So it's really bad. Like even till today, I have not smelt a smell like that. There's something about it. If you've never smelt a dead body that's been there, yeah, it's the worst smell that I've in my life. And so we go in there, and as soon as I see the guy, I'm like, he's dead. Now that sounds like basic. I've seen dead people in movies. Hundreds of movies you would have seen growing up. But there's nothing like that.
The reality of it.
There's nothing like that.
Yeah.
And in the West, you're not seeing dead bodies regular. In England, in London, you're not seeing that all the time, especially not being there for. And I just knew he's gone. Like he's there, but he's gone. He's there, and I couldn't articulate it or think about it. And when we were there, this is what was really freaked me out. When you die, you still got air and liquid in you, but it leaks out of you. And this is turning into a horror podcast. And
I'm locked in now.
Maybe some people like that. Maybe you got a new audience now, man. And so, and as he was there, he was leaning back, and all of a sudden an air pocket must have released in him, and he went, oh. And it was like, it was so freaky. And I think I couldn't shake that for weeks. I could not shake that for weeks, man. It's like, so I remember going out to like a club with my friends, and so we'd dress up, we'd wear like nice clothes and like designer clothes, like Versace, Armani, and all of this stuff. So we dressed out, had these Armani glasses with this big eagle on it, and we're walking around the club. And I went into the club, and we walked around, and I saw people dancing and drinking, and girls walking around half naked, but it was empty, because it was like, you're all gonna die. You're all gonna be where that guy is.
So it's like pointless.
Yeah, it was like frivolous. It was like, this is pointless. And I walked around, and I just walked out and went home. And I didn't even tell my friends. I just walked out and went home. I didn't even tell my friends. And then what happened was, they called me, and they were like, "Where are you?" I'm like, "I've gone home." And I think that was some point in January. And I probably got saved and went to church about 2 weeks after that.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. So huge eye opener for you, right?
Yeah.
I think a lot of people don't really understand that. I think you told me this when I was a teenager, that the body is just a shell. Like, but when someone has stepped into eternity, like that really solidifies that idea, right? And so huge eye opener for you. And you'd say that would probably be one of the defining moments that led you to come to church?
I think it was a stepping stone. I think the main thing for me was the pointlessness of this world. I've tried all these different things, the alcohol, the girls, the parties, the clothes, the the things that I could reach. You know, I didn't have a yacht and a mansion and a plane, but the things that I could reach in my little urban lifestyle,
Yeah.
and I found them empty. I'd exhausted them. That's how it felt. Like you'd come to the bottom of a drink and it's like there's nothing there.
Yeah.
I couldn't be quenched.
And if you're saying you had started at such a young age, you're probably like knocking down all these milestones prior to your peers, right? It's like, let's go have a beer. Well, I just been drinking since the age of 12, so 14, right? And then now you're experiencing this kind of spiritual fatigue, or this worldly fatigue, would you say? And so now you're in church. Do you automatically make the decision to serve God? Because I know you can go to church, but that transition period isn't like
me, it was
guaranteed.
Yeah, me, it was
That's what I was going to ask you. Is your conversion, was it a radical conversion?
Yeah. So basically, I go to a friend's house one time, and we're just smoking weed in his house. And he said he got this invitation to go to church. And he said the guy that invited him to the church had like a gold tooth and like a leather cap, and he just looked like a street guy. And he invited him to church. And I was like, what? A street guy goes to church? And I thought if I went to church, I'd have to become like the Pope, you know, like, or a priest.
Yeah.
I thought, and so to me, I'm
Gotta wear
like,
the robe.
yeah, I'm into, by that time, I'm into Wu-Tang Clan and Nas, and I don't want to become a priest, you know.
Yeah.
You want to be a rapper.
Yeah, exactly. And so when he said this guy, and he described him, I said, you know what, maybe I could go to church. And something the guy said to him that stood out to me, he said, just come as you are. You don't have to wear a shirt and tie, you don't have to do anything, just come as you are. And I was like, okay, I can go to that type of church. That's the type of church I could go to. So I said to the guy, let's go, because it was a friend of mine that got the flyer. So I said, do you want to go? And he said, yeah, let's go. So I go to work that day, and I'm thinking about going to this church all day. I can't stop thinking about all day, I'm going to go to this church. 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 So I go to his house, and I was like, are we going to go to the church? And he goes, no. He goes, I've just got this big bag of weed. And I'd never seen him with so much weed. I don't know where he got that weed from. It's the biggest bag of weed I've ever seen him have in all of my life with him, you know, friendship. And he said, let's just smoke the weed. And, before that time, I would have been like, this is Christmas. Big bag of weed. We can smoke this. Yeah. And something in me, I said, I'm going to the church. And that is so not me. There's no way that was me. One, I wouldn't go to the church by myself anyway. But it was so not me. And so I said, no, I'm going to go to the church. I'll see you later. So I go to the church. I walk in the church. And the church is about 30, 40 people.
Wow, so it's very personal.
Yeah, small church. And when I go to the church, the pastor wasn't, Pastor Carnegie was my pastor. He wasn't there it was a Wednesday. He wasn't there. Wednesday or Thursday, a midweek service. He wasn't there. There was another guy, another pastor they'd asked to come preach there. And that pastor grew up where I hanged out. So when he was talking, I knew what he was talking about, his background. And he was a guy that kind of would have been older than me. You know, in the world, I would have looked up to a guy like that.
Okay.
He's older than me. He's experiencing more things than me. And I was like, wow, a guy from the area is a pastor. This is amazing. And then I knew a guy in the church. There was a guy called Dimitri. He's the praise and worship leader now. And I'd recognized him from my area. And so I was like, I like this. This is good. So I go to the church. I don't get saved, though. And I leave the church. And I think the guy invites me to a Bible study. So then on Friday, I go to the Bible study with them. And I see these men in the Bible study. And so here I am. I'm very much into the aesthetics of fashion and designer clothing and showing off and, covering my insecurity with the worldly, stuff. Mm-hmm. And I see these men who are just dressed basic, like literally, I was like, what the heck? Why are they dressed like that? They look nerdy almost, like, what the heck? But when they started to speak, I realized they had something I didn't have. Like I was like, God, these guys have got something. There's a weight to them.
Yeah.
Like I would never would have respected them just seeing them. But when they started to speak, I realized they had something I didn't have. So that was the Friday. So then I went to church on the Sunday. And then I went to church on the Wednesday. And on the Wednesday, the guy preached. It wasn't the pastor, it was the disciple. And so he said, bow your heads and all of that. Is the altar call. And I said to God, you know what? Maybe I'm not a bad person. You know, I want to do the right thing. So this is really not for me. And as soon as I said that in my head, the pastor said, you're saying to yourself, you're not a bad person.
Oh.
This is the way you're the person that needs to answer this. And I put my hand up so quick that when I pulled it down, I hit the person's head in front. I just went like that. I was so like that. And so God had to do that to get me saved. And then I got saved. And then when I left the church that night, God told me, throw away all your music. I was like, who's talking to me?
Yeah.
Throw away. And so I had about 100 CDs. You know, someone would have to look up what a CD is.
Yeah.
Back in the days when the dinosaurs
Put it on
roamed
the
the land.
description.
Yeah. And so throw away. And so 100 CDs, you know, back then CDs were like £12. That's it's over £1,000, you know, that's a lot of.
What's that in dollars?
Let's have a look. Maybe like $1,400, $1,300 worth.
Wow. That's a lot of money.
Yeah, each
Just
CD,
CDs.
Just CDs. Yeah, they're like CDs would be like 10 pounds, 12 pounds, like that. So I had all these CDs. It was like it was in a rack. Like it was a thing to show off. It was an accomplishment.
Right. Like come to my house, check out my CDs.
Well, see,
Status symbol right there.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's like, wow, he's got CDs. And God told me, throw away all your CDs. And I had all these hip hop magazines, Source magazine, loads of them. And God said, throw it away. And I went home that day and I was living with some guys. I wasn't living with my family anymore. And it was a house where my friend's mum, it was her house, but she didn't live there. So he lived there and I lived there. And really all we did is to smoke weed and bring girls back to that house. That's really what it was used for. It's like a hangout for all the friends. So I'd left there at 6 o'clock to go to church. And when I come back, I told them, I'm a Christian now. I'm saved. I said, I'm saved. God's told me to throw away all my music. So I'm going to throw it away. So I put it all in a bag. They thought I was nuts. I said, just to let you know, I can't party with you no more. And the next woman I have sex with will be my wife.
Wow.
How did they respond to that?
They thought it was crazy. They was like, what?
We want what you're smoking.
Yeah, they were like, what? And so that was like the night I got saved. I did all of that. Never turned back, never drunk again. I was drinking. Most weekends I'd be drunk by like 11 o'clock in the afternoon. Wow. You know, I'd drink every day. I would drink every day, and on the weekend I would drink all day. I cannot tell you the amount of times I've passed out through alcohol.
Yeah.
Before I was 22.
So you come to church, you have this radical conversion.
Yeah.
Was there a point in your walk with God after that point, right? Because we come into church, we kind of have a spiritual high, and we're experiencing this life with Christ. Was there a moment in time where you started to feel fatigued in your walk with God? And if so, what kept you serving God even through that season where all the...
I think, I wouldn't say a fatigue until later on. I never really felt a fatigue. I've never wanted to leave Jesus. To me, there's no other, I don't know, I can't really put my finger on it. From the moment I got saved, I've never wanted to leave Jesus. I don't have any life outside of him. He's the best thing that ever happened to me. But what I struggled with was, I think the first thing I struggled with was God's people. I've wanted to leave church and go to another church. I've wanted to, God's people have wearied me. Because I needed to grow in my love for people. And then my own sanctification process has disappointed me. My pride and my lust. Struggled with pride and lust in the first, year or so. And that kind of frustrated me a lot. Like, why can't I get the victory in this? Why am I still like this? And it's very, I didn't understand sanctification, and maybe I kind of vacillated between condemnation and giving up and all
Yeah.
of those things. But I wouldn't say I got weary till later. I was probably saved maybe 3 years. I went for a dating relationship and it didn't go the way I wanted it to go and it fell apart. And I think that kind of wearied me a bit.
Yeah. So to touch on those instances, right, where not so much wanting to leave Jesus, but like the instances where, you know, you're having these moments where I don't want to leave God, but I really don't want to serve God alongside your peers, right, at that time, because, you know, it's a learning process.
Yeah.
What kept you anchored in the church in that specific address?
God clearly told me, why did you come here? Did you come here for me or for them? And if I believe it, and if you come to church for man, then man will probably could get you out.
Yeah.
I didn't come church for man. You know, there was nothing. In my limited perspective, I had friends. I had a life. I mean, it's a dead life, but I didn't come to church to be pandered to or to have friends.
Yeah.
I had friends. I've always had friends. I always had a social life. For me to come to church, I gave that up.
Mm-hmm.
To come to Christ, I gave that up. So God kind of said to me, why did you come here? Is it for them or for me? God really showed me I've placed you here. So through the years.
That really kept you anchored.
Yeah, when I've been weary of what's going on here or what's going down, I knew that, no, God has always told me, I placed you here. This is where I'm going to feed you. So yeah, I'm always saying to people, you know, we're not the only church, but if God's placed you here, I would really, 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 really consider before you start to just think I'm going to go across town to another church.
I don't think you're going to find anything the same.
Yeah, when God places you, I don't want to sound too legalistic, but I've not seen it work the best. I think I can't speak on anyone else's thing, but for me, this is where God placed me. This is where God saved me.
Yeah.
This is where God has challenged me, fed me. And I knew from a very early on, this is what God told me. And I'm fortunate to have that.
The will of God has an address, right? That was
Correct.
a reality in your life. So you're saved now. What was your first ministries? What was the first thing you got involved in church? Ushering.
Yeah. Well, saying that, I was saved a month, and I said to one of the guys that was following up on me, let's start. I was only saved a month, and I thought about this. It's kind of crazy, but I was like, let's start a door-to-door ministry. I was saved a month. I said, I want to start a door-to-door ministry.
Yeah.
And I think that was my mum's influence. I saw this woman get saved, and straight away she wanted to see people saved. So I always knew when you become a Christian, you tell others about Jesus. That's it. You don't just come church. And I had that exampleship from my mum. My mum has been a big influence in my salvation because I've seen this woman be faithful to Christ. She got saved. She came from a very, very raggedy, dysfunctional background. But when she got saved, though she struggled with things, she's just been on it.
Yeah. So it's a good example for you.
Amazing.
How many ministries would you say you had at one point?
What have I done? I've been in the drama. I've done music. I've done ushering. I started a hospital ministry, but it was a weird one because I just had a burden and I said, you know what? I'm just going to walk into hospitals, walk around like I know what I'm doing, and walk up to people in their bed and then start
with the white
witnessing to
coat.
them.
No.
And a stethoscope.
Yeah.
and
Find yourself arrested.
a Photoshop badge.
Yeah, just
Someone after about I did it. Literally, it sounds crazy. It sounds crazy now. You know, zeal with that knowledge. But I did it for a couple of months, and then someone caught me, and they were like, "What are you doing here?" And I was like, "They said, no, you got to go to the chaplain and go through this thing." And I was like,
Did your pastor know about the ministry, or you did that without permission?
I think in the middle I might have told him after I started. I can't remember.
Okay.
I was always doing things like this. Like I started a street preaching thing before church because we used to have church in the afternoon. And so I got some guys, let's go do street preaching here. I've always been like, you know, let's start this new thing. Let's start a new ministry. Let's go here. Let's go there and do this stuff. So,
did you ever find yourself in a position where you had too many ministries at one time?
people speak to me about that now. That didn't exist to me, I'll be honest with you.
Wow.
That doesn't exist to me. I know, again, I don't try force everybody into my shoes, but for me, that didn't exist. To me, my motto is kingdom first. I've never felt like I was doing too much. I wanted to do more. And again, it's just, that's for me.
Yeah, and I think I got that impression of you when you walked into the studio, where you're talking about the setup, you're talking about how things are run here, and then we ask you in regards to the editing process of the Real Disciples podcast. I edit it myself. Like, that is no small task. That's a lot of work, and your schedule is pretty packed. And I'm assuming you're doing it on the road, you're editing on the road, and things of that nature as well.
Yeah, I think for me, I like creative things, so I enjoy it. I need to let go of it because, I'm a pastor and I need to focus on God's people. So it's not like, I don't want to do it no more. No, I would do it until Jesus comes, but I need to let go of it. I need to recruit people. And so we've done a lot. We've got good people now in the church. We're really blessed. In the beginning, I was designing all the flyers. I built the website. I would do all the videoing, the editing, and all of those things. But we've been able to build a good team of people with the church thing. And so the Real Disciple thing is the next phase to do that. And that's really God challenging me that, as a pastor, you can do a lot of different things, but you need to focus on being a pastor.
Yeah. And that's a huge calling in and of itself. What do you tell the disciple who sees the zeal of his pastor, and you kind of have this spirit of kingdom first? I want to do this. It's going to get done. I'll keep putting stuff on my plate. What do you tell the disciple that wants to imitate that? They end up doing that, but in the long run, they find themselves with too much stuff on their plate. Like, what would you tell that disciple? They have too much stuff on their plate. The quality of their output is now being hurt as well.
Yeah, I think life has phases, and I think the Bible shows us that. You see Abraham. God doesn't give the law to Abraham; He gives it to Moses. He just tells Abraham, circumcision, very basic. Follow me, and then later on, as they become a nation, He gives them more. They become a kingdom. He gives them more. There's different things. So I think when you're pioneering, you just got to do everything you can, the best you can, and you're going to be tired. And, you're just going to try your best. Balance is something that the Holy Spirit has to give you. I would say to anybody, just do everything you can, the best you can when you're pioneering. A church like this church where you've grown and you've got different people, you want to raise the quality of things, then you are going to have to pull back from certain things. And you're going to have to make decisions. What's God calling you to do? Where's the need? I'm a big person, so I'm a big believer in meet the need. A lot of people say, this is what I like to do. This is what I like to do. I don't know why I did that voice, but God bless everybody. But I'm like, I've always been someone. Where's the need?
Yeah.
Even going to Wandsworth, it's a weird way that I got sent out, but there was a need, and so I meet the need. So to me, I've always been someone who, I think you find destiny by meeting the need.
Okay.
God reveals His will by meeting the need many times. You want to do that, you want to go here, and these are good things, man. These can be good things.
Yeah.
If there's a need here, many times that's how God's going to direct you. Because meeting a need is usually not about you. It's about someone else.
Yeah. What I found is that God will often equip you for that task. It's just, all right, it needs to get done though. So let's do it. And then in the process of agreeing to it, he'll equip you for the task.
I think it's generational as well. I think the fellowship is older. People within the younger people within the churches that I go to, they have a certain excellence now where we didn't have that. So I think we were just like, let's just go for it, and flyers, people were drawing flyers and photocopying them and then cutting them out,
Yeah. So that generation paid a price for what we have now. So it's I wouldn't say easy, but it's easier for us, our generation to be excellent, but because the generation before us paid a price.
Correct.
Like that, cutting, your own papers, all those kinds of things, going to a hospital in a white coat. All those kinds of things.
Excuse me, I'm Dr. Lowe.
Correction.
Yeah.
So you talked about being a pastor, all of that. When did you know you were called to preach?
This one is going to be strange, so you can edit out or do some CGI. Amen.
Yeah.
But I didn't know I was called.
Okay.
Literally, I've never, I meet so many people. The 99% of the people I meet, they'll be like, I started coming to church for a while, and then I came to a men's D or a sermon or a conference. I knew I was called. I've never missed church since I've been saved. Not one service. Not one. Like, I've never missed church. From the moment I got saved, that I told you I came in on that Thursday, I've never missed one service in my entire salvation since 1996, January, I think the 17th or the 14th, I can never remember. As soon as I came to church, I never missed church. I've come to every revival, never missed any revivals. I've been on impact teams. I came to every conference. I went on every outreach. I just, whether I'm called or not called, I believe every Christian should give themselves to the kingdom of God. That was it. So I didn't really feel called. I just felt that if what I believe is true, if there's a heaven and a hell, and this is for eternity, then everything is way, 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 way second to this.
Yeah.
That's just it. So this is just it's just an obvious way to live based upon what I believe, what the Bible teaches. Just before my pastor spoke to me, a few years before that, I was the youth leader, and we saw the youth really grow. We saw the youth, like we started with about, 10 youth, and within a year or so, it went up to, we was having youth services of about 80 youth.
Wow.
And 90% of them were not church youth. They were youth coming in. And so, I think there's about 4 or 5 pastors out of that group now that have been sent out of that group when I was there. So I think that kind of whet my appetite for ministry of a different level. I saw God doing something in my life. I was like, even I was a bit shocked that this thing was happening. And then there was a few things that I kind of started to feel God depositing in my spirit. And now I was going to go to this area, Wandsworth. And the reason why we had a church in Wandsworth is 5 years before I went there, I started doing door-to-door there.
Okay.
So I was doing door-to-door there, and we'd see young men get saved. And one of the things they would say is, when they would see me, they would be like, you don't seem like a Christian, because you just seem like a normal guy. So I'm getting these young men to pray and give their life to Jesus. And then I go to my pastor. I wasn't married at the time. I go to my pastor and I said, look, you need to send a church there because I'm getting people saved, but it's too far to come to our church. They just don't want to come to our church. At that point, our church had moved a bit further because of building issues from where that was. So they sent a church there, the next conference, to Wandsworth. So I always was asking, how's it going there? What's going on there? I felt a burden for the place. Really felt God could do something there. And the guy was a great guy. He went there. He didn't really see a lot happen, but he had some good people, handful of people, about 8 people there. He was there about 6 years, had about 8 people. And then one night, my pastor called me and said, that guy, he just doesn't want to be a pastor anymore. He just got so weary. And I think it was other things that he could have maybe done better within himself, but I'm not going to speak ill of the guy. So he just said, I don't want it no more. He just said to his pastor, that's it, I'm out. I'm out today. I'm not going back. I'm not going to preach. I'm not doing nothing. So Saturday night, Pastor Ajala calls me. I think it's about 8 or 9 o'clock. And he says to me, we need somebody to go into Wandsworth tomorrow to be the pastor there. And the only way I can describe it, I felt like if I was saying no, it would be like denying that my mother was my mother. It was like, this is yours. These are your people. You have to go for them. You have to go there. And so I said, yeah, we'll do it. I didn't ask my wife. I didn't pray about it. I just said, we're going to do it.
Yeah. You stepped into your calling.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you're married by that time. So let's take some steps back.
Yeah.
Several probably. I've heard you preach that you were single for 9 years when you came into the church, 9 years after that.
About that, yeah.
So what was that season like, this 9 years? And so this might be uncomfortable, but...
No. Nothing's uncomfortable for me. It's cool.
Yeah.
I had dated a number of times, and nothing negative about the people I dated. I think for me, I preached a series of sermons on emotional intelligence recently, and I think that was something that I lacked, not growing up with a father and being in and out of care and this dysfunctional thing. So you come to church, you get that revelation of Christ, you're involved in everything, you give yourself to everything, but you still need to grow emotionally. And I just wasn't ready for marriage. I just had no reference point. I had no internal reference point. And I think because I was a bit older when I came to church, I was 22, so I'm already a man. And not only that, the way I kind of grew up, no man had told, we had spoke about this.
Yeah.
No man had spoken to me. So I wasn't the type of guy that was going to come in and be like, yeah, pastor, disciple me. I was like, I kind of, just preach the Bible. Okay, it's in the Bible. I'll do what the Bible says. But, just tell me what the Bible says. But I don't want you don't need to train me to be a man. But really, I did need to be trained in being a man. But I didn't know that. So it took me probably a while to kind of learn, Courtney, you don't know what you're doing. You don't have this thing in you of manhood. You have a pseudo manhood, just aggression and anger and showing off, kind of the street manhood.
Yeah.
That's what I had.
Would you say, so I imagine you were frustrated in this time period.
Yeah.
What was key to powering through that?
Yeah.
And then because you're single, while you're single, what would you say is the most important relationship for a single person, whether a girl or a guy?
Yeah. I think during that time, I had to process a lot of things because a lot of my peers, they dated, they just got married.
Right, and I assume that can get frustrating.
Yeah, so they dated, they got married, and then I'm dating and I'm failing, I'm dating, I'm failing, I'm dating, I'm failing. And so there's kind of like not a peer pressure, but there's almost like he's the guy that can't do it. He's the guy that's failing. And I think one of the best things that came out of that is that it made me develop my relationship with God because I could not, I can no longer, some people, they get saved, they come in the church, they get on fire and they get into ministry, they get married and they do everything right. And so they're good guys. You go to a church and the pastor would be like, hey, that's a good guy. I wasn't that guy. I'm the joke for a long time in church. And so it kind of freed me from performing.
Wow.
I don't need to perform. I don't perform.
There's no one to impress.
There's no one to impress. I don't have the luxury of being like, yeah, brother, let me tell you. No, I don't have the luxury. So my Christianity has become very organic. I know that I'm saved because of what Christ has done for me. I know that I'm confident in my salvation. Even when my performance is not what it should be, I'm still under Christ. I'm in Christ. I'm redeemed. I'm his child. And I think that has helped me a lot later on in being a pastor and just knowing who Christ is. I had to kind of really, I started to study the Bible, study salvation, like what makes me saved? How do you stay saved? I question things like, am I saved? And then I realized these are not salvation things, man. This is not about your salvation. Your salvation is secure, Courtney. This is about character building, discipleship. And I think sometimes those two things can
definitely
get mixed. You put a guy in ministry, he's not good at it, you remove him, he's in jeopardy of his salvation now. Like, what am I? Where am I? What are you saying about me? Am I saved? He starts to drift out of church. He's not on it like he used to be. And it's like, this is not a salvation thing. You took on that ministry, you wasn't quite ready for it yet, but you're still saved. You still should read your Bible, pray, love the church, come to church, go on outreach. This is just character. And we'll deal with that. We'll build that. but your salvation is secure. So I think I got that out of it.
Yeah. So, and the reason I ask that is because a lot of times a single person who's single for that long can become hyper focused on that dilemma.
Yeah.
And apparently, when they should be focusing on their relationship with God, they're not. And so they're lifting up a relationship they don't have, investing into a relationship they don't have.
Very good.
When they should be in a relationship with God. And so just to go back to that other question, right, we need a relationship with God, but obviously we're humans. We need human interaction. We need human relationships. What is the best or several best relationships a single person can have that, okay, I'm going to at least focus on this apart from God?
I would say that as a single person, you need to have multiple relationships. I think you should have older people in your life to help you disciple. If you're in a bigger church, you might not be able to have that relationship with the pastor, but you can have relationship with older Christians and those that are married as well. Not just those that are married, but older Christians that can disciple you and help you in praying and reading and just balancing things out. I think you need a peer group friendship. You need to have friends in church that you have a peer group that, you kind of let your hair down, but they're not carnal, but we're just being friends. We're friends and we're challenging one another, but we're encouraging one another. And if you're a single person, you should still be discipling people. You should disciple people. So I think there's those who are ahead of you, those are with you, and those that are newer than you. And if you give yourself to that, your life will be full and you will become a better person. And the person you marry, you'll bring something to the table rather than, like you said, focusing on that relationship, because you'll be a husk. You'll just be an empty person, and you will be like, you'll drain the dating relationship. And it won't have what you're trying to get something out of this relationship that it just wasn't built for. Because even if we're all married, or we still have people who are ahead of us. We still have our peers, and we still work with people.
Yeah.
And that's part of our Christian fulfillment. And so I would say give yourself to that.
So now you're single, you get married eventually.
Yep.
Do you believe in what someone would call soulmates? How did you meet your wife?
So I'm under the persuasion that there isn't one person for one person.
There isn't?
No, I don't think, meaning obviously you get married to one person, amen?
Yeah.
We're not Mormons. But I think that what God has given us is his will. His will is this type of person. As a Christian, you shouldn't be marrying an unsaved person, this type of person. That's out of his will. In his will is this type of person. And it's for you to seek God, and then in his word and his wisdom and his Holy Spirit, and God's going to show you this type of person, and it's for you to make that choice. And but it's a choice. God's not forcing you to do that, because if God said you had to marry that person, that was never my choice, and you stuffed me with this person. So why do I have to stay faithful? No, you chose this person. You chose this person. And so you have to get behind that now. You have to make that decision and stick with it. And are you ready to get married? So to me, me and my wife have a great relationship. We have, for me, we have the best marriage on the planet. I've never looked at someone else's marriage and thought I'd like that. There's nothing that I love our marriage. I love my wife. I think because I got married later, I was maturer. So I've never thought about, no, because I got married at 31. By that time, I've had a good job. I've had, my own place. I've had a car. I've had money. And I knew there was something missing. I wasn't lonely though, but I knew something was missing. There were periods in my singleness where I was lonely, and God really had to show me, no. Just because you're alone, you don't need to be lonely. Because Jesus actually says, you guys will all leave me, but I won't be alone because the Father will be with me. I don't think we need to be lonely as Christians, but sometimes you're alone, so you yearn for companionship, and that's a human thing, and that's a godly thing. So I think I started to yearn for companionship. I valued that missing element, and my wife has brought that to me, and I've brought that to her. And so I've never oh, if I wasn't married, I could be free. I want to go here. I want to hang out with the guys. No, I'd kind of exhausted all of that. You know, I didn't want all of that.
I think you're getting into, or you're dropping some golden nuggets for our viewers, because I think people that find themselves in that situation, right, where I'm single, I'm in my early to mid 20s, I don't really have any prospects or a girl that I would probably start talking to. I guess what I've noticed in kind of our generation, or the generation that's coming up, is sometimes there's not a real sense of urgency to start building your life prior to finding the girl, right? It's like, I'll find the girl and then I'll start working on getting money, my own place, you know, hygiene, right? But you're saying you got married in your 30s, right? 30s.
Yeah.
And but you were already working on that during that time, right? And so I think that speaks volumes to people that are in that situation. Now, another thing that I'll notice is that when people are single during that time, and sometimes I feel kind of bad because I've seen it. It's like there's a lot of pressure on these people. Like, when are you gonna get married? Or like, everyone's getting married. Your cousin, you know, she's married, and and you know, he's sent out already, and it's like,
I think it's part of life.
Yeah, it's part of life, and we know this. But for the individual in that situation, like, how do you recommend handling the pressure from the peers around you, right? Because I know you're not just going to marry someone just because they tell you, but it has to be difficult.
To me, I've always said that's part of life. There's always going to be people who there's always going to be pressure in life. We're on the planet right now. There's a level of gravity that's keeping us from, our bodies develop the ability to walk. That's part of life. There's always going to be some sort of pressure. There's a G-force even if you're in your car. So to me, that's just, I think to be a human and you want to escape pressure, there is no such place on this planet. So you got to embrace it.
Like, lean into it.
Yeah, you just got to lean into it. It's part of, obviously, if people say it with a wrong spirit, you just got to pray for them. But most people that are saying it, they care for us, they love us. Sometimes they might not be sensitive. So it'll be like, when are you going to get married if you're single? And once you get married, when are you going to have children? Me and my wife, we don't have children.
It just never ends.
Yeah, so we don't have children. So when people ask us, oh, you've been married that long, at this age you don't have children, and it's like, then they start tiptoeing. I'm like, no, we're happy. We love God. You know, it's not, you know, it just hasn't happened. You know, we're not going to get upset. We expect you to ask that. It's not like, let's avoid. No. We love you, man. We're happy. We love Jesus.
Yeah.
We're good. It's part of life. Then if you're married a while, when are you going to get sent out? Then when you get sent out, people are like, when are you going to send someone out? Then when you're going to it's part of life. So just digest it and lean into it. Be like, okay, laugh it off, or not yet, or pray for me.
What if they say it with like a malicious intent? Like, or trying to show you up?
Well, I think then love them, man. That's what, you know, like I always say to people, you know, God hasn't told me to teach everybody. God hasn't told me to correct everybody. God hasn't told me to do anything for every single person. There's some people, but God has told me to love everybody.
Yeah, I found what works best for me is I pray they get flat tires, and then and it happens. God's good. No, dude.
Is that you slashing their tires?
Yeah, no, I pay
in McAllen,
someone,
if you've had a flat tire, you're a part of the McAllen church. We've found the source.
There's a way to do it if you want to know.
He's got shares in Dunlop and Michelin.
So you find your wife. Was there any like specific qualities that you were looking for?
Yes.
And what were those?
Yeah.
My wife, what God told me, because I dated, and again, this is not to say anything negative about anybody that I've dated, but one quality that my wife has that's above and beyond, and most people that have met her would say that she's a very kind person. And God told me, the woman that you need to find, you need to have a kind woman. You need to find a kind woman. There's a funny story. So I was on a business trip with a colleague, and he's not saved, he's married, and I wasn't married at the time. And he'd been divorced and remarried. So he's not saved, he's just a average guy. And he said when he got married really young, And the woman he married, he said she was beautiful. She was like a model. Like everywhere you took her, heads would turn. You'd go to restaurants and the waiter would comment and say, hey, your wife is really beautiful. It's like she's this type of woman. And he said he married her, but she would wear him out. Oh, she was abusive. She was spoiled. She was high maintenance. She was demanding. And he said after he married her, it's like the beauty disappeared. It's like the beauty disappeared. He couldn't see her as a beautiful woman anymore. And eventually she divorced him. She ran off, all of this stuff. So he remarries a woman and he said, you know what, to be honest, maybe his newer wife, she's still a beautiful woman, but she's not the model. She's just an average beautiful woman. And he said, this woman is so kind to him. And he said this to me, I'll never forget it. He says, Courtney, you don't lie in bed feeling comfort that your wife is beautiful, but you will lie in bed feeling comfort that your wife is kind. And when he said it, it was like the Holy Spirit spoke through him. Yeah, God found a donkey.
Yeah.
And he spoke to me. And when I met my wife, she was very kind. She was serving people in the church. She was always serving. She was always doing this for these people. And sometimes there's high profile people in the church, and sometimes there's people that can kind of fall through the gaps in a bigger growing church. And she was serving those people, the people that would fall through the gaps. And she would come to me, and be like, can we give this person a lift home? And I'm like, who? Oh, yeah. Who is she? I was like, oh no, because, she's got her kid and she usually gets the bus to church. And that was what drew me to Francis. And I can say that we've been married 21 years this year, October. She has always been kind to me, and she's taught me how to be kind to others. She's really helped me to be patient with me, especially as a pastor, where I could be like, with my radical salvation, like I get saved, throw away everything, never miss church. I think everybody should get saved like that.
Right,
so if you don't get saved like that, you're not even saved. And my wife would be like, yeah, but babe, let's take time, don't just call them yet. Maybe you need to pray before you rebuke them. And so she's really helped me. So that would be one of the main qualities. She loves God more than she loves me. And she loves God's people. She loves church. She loves, coming with me like here, seeing what God is doing here. We were talking this morning. She was like, I'm so glad I came here and seeing the people in the church. It's powerful. God's moving here. Let's go back and let's do more. And so, I'm never dragging her to conference or to church or no. She's on it. We're partnering together.
Wow. That's awesome. So in the dating process, I guess this question could be a bit taboo. Maybe you can help me reword it in a way. But I know you had mentioned that you didn't really wait for your pastor to tell you how to do things. You kind of just went about it yourself.
Yeah.
So take that to the dating season of your walk with God. What were the convictions like? Did you guys kind of set your own convictions, or was that kind of like you looked at a couple in church and said, all right, I think this is how it's done? What did that look like?
Yeah, I'd say the culture of the church at that point was, holiness. And, she's not your wife. She's just a sister in the church. Though you're dating her, even maybe towards the end, maybe one or two slipped out, but I don't think we'd even call each other babe or hun. It was like until I put the ring on her finger. Yeah, she's just a sister in church.
Where's Pastor's camera? Pastor, look right in that camera and see it.
Okay. Yeah.
No, because I guess people
let me stop you here. You remember, I've already dated 3 times. Yeah. So I'm like, I don't know if this is, so I don't want to be.
You're like, maybe this is the right time.
20 women in the church I've called babe.
Oh.
So maybe that was more of it.
Oh, joking.
Yeah, so maybe that's.
But now this experience is totally different for you.
Yeah, that would be the goal. The goal was, holiness.
Holiness, okay.
And let's wait till you're married and try not to spend time. I think towards the end, it was like, you know what? I need to put some boundaries here because I'm feeling things that I'm still a man, red-blooded man.
So that was your personal decision.
Correct. Oh yeah. My boss never forced me to. No. These are my convictions. Obviously, I got them from my pastor and the fellowship. But even that though, because like I said, when I got saved, I went back and told the friends that I lived with, the next woman I'm intimate with will be my wife.
Yeah.
Like I'm not doing that with women no more. And then when I got saved, a week later, my friend said, let's go to the bar. So I'm only saved a week. And I was like, I don't think I'm meant to go there. I said, let's just get some alcohol and I'll drink at your house. But I got the lowest alcohol drink. To me, it was like a soft drink. Budweiser was like a soft drink to me because I was drinking strong drink. And I drank this half of this like soft alcohol drink, and something said to me, you don't need this no more. So these are convictions that God gave me about these things. So I can only say what my testimony is.
No, yeah, and I think that like everyone's experience is different. So what was it like? And this is an exciting topic because when we're watching Real Disciples, you also have segments where you and your wife are talking about relationships. You and your wife are talking about dating and stuff like that. So I know this is something that's near and dear to your heart, the whole process of it. What was the process like dating your wife? And like whenever it came time to ask for her hand in marriage, what did that look like too? Do you talk to her pastor? Do you talk to her? I don't know. What did that look like for you?
By the time we got engaged, my pastor had left and I had a new pastor. He's a good guy. Pastor Peter Ajali did a great job there. I probably didn't have that relationship with him yet. We have a great relationship now. We're like family. But back then I didn't have that. It was kind of the lost in the transition a bit, I would say. So I don't think I asked him at that point. I was kind of just praying a lot. And we dated for about 1.5 years. And then I just knew that I knew that I knew. I just had a peace about it. I was praying and I was seeking God and I just had a peace about it. And within 3 months we were married. We just basically, I didn't have much money. So we sat in a restaurant and I asked her to marry me. She said yes. So we sat in a restaurant and we said, how much money can we raise in 3 months? That's what we're going to spend. That's our wedding. My wife's wedding dress was like, in American money, it would be like maybe like $130. That was her wedding dress. My wedding ring was like $10. Hers was much more than that at the time. Yeah. The church helped us with food and we went to a honeymoon. We went to New Jersey. My dad lived in New Jersey. We spent some of the time at my dad's house and some of the times at a hotel. Everything was done on a budget. We just said, let's just get married and later on we'll build our life together. And we said, we don't want to get into debt. We're not going to borrow money for a wedding. We don't want to come back from our wedding owing anybody anything. And so we've got time to do all of that.
Awesome. Was that the trip you had mentioned on the podcast you had with your wife where like that was her favorite trip?
Oh, no, that was the second year. That was our first year anniversary, and we went to Florida, and
she said she loved that trip.
Yeah, it was just,
and then you're like, we just like left.
Yeah. It was ghetto. The hotel was ghetto. We booked it online, and it's like when we got there, it was just like a motel.
Hey, but the memories, right?
Yeah. She really enjoyed it. We actually we always laugh at it. The hotel was called Sierra Leone. I don't think it exists anymore. And whenever we see something that's a little bit ghetto, we'd be like, Sierra Leone. We remember it.
Wink.
Yeah,
wink.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay, so let's segue to your podcast.
Yeah.
What is your podcast called?
Real Disciple.
Okay, Real Disciples. I wanna dive into this and dissect it a bit for our viewers. But in your eyes, what is that? What is a real disciple?
The purpose that I did was that I couldn't think of where I could point people to online where people were talking about what we do as a church, like pioneering, world evangelism, discipleship. other than sermons, we have a lot of sermons we could point people to. But I did not know where can I point people to where there's a conversation about these things.
Yeah.
And that was why I made Real Disciple.
Yeah, specifically about discipleship.
The way that we do it, like with church planting, discipleship, world evangelism, that kind of, there's people that do. I'm not saying we're the only ones.
No,
there are many people that do it.
But in our fellowship.
Yeah. So I was thinking those three things where they come together, and then, so that was my goal. It was just really that I'm going to make this thing and I'm going to send it out to the people in my church, and they can get a perspective from other pastors where we're going to talk about these things.
Okay. So you kind of built it out of a necessity, right?
Yeah. I mean,
well, because you know, for the new converts, they're going and getting their own information.
Yes,
right?
Correct. Yeah.
And so the problem that we see in this digital age is like, there's a lot of pastors that not only within our fellowship, but even beyond, like beyond our church walls, that they have the gospel message right. Yeah. It's powerful. It is a two-edged sword. It penetrates the heart. It challenges and convicts. But then when it comes to the digital aspect of it, no, that's not my forte. But then you have the other side of the spectrum that their theology is wicked and it's wrong and they're manipulating the Bible, but they're the ones that will invest in a camera and put it out for these people to see. And so we have our new converts. And I'm trying to put myself in the shoes of a new convert. It's like, man, I guess I'm a Christian now. And church is over. They're at home. Let me look what a Christian does, or what is a real disciple. And they plug it in, and they're gonna see, this weird theological guy talking about like, if you put this number together and this number together, then you'll do this, and you turn it upside down. It's the color purple, and what does that mean? Like, bro, let's talk about discipleship. And I think like these people are hungry, and they're gonna be looking for stuff. Where are you gonna send them? Right?
Yeah.
And so you're saying that's where real discipleship came out of, that need.
That's what it was, yeah. It was just something that I would share with people in my church, and people could watch it, and we would talk. Originally, if you look at all the first ones, I was speaking to pastors just about how they got saved, how they got married, the call of God, and then what is a disciple. That usually is pretty much the straightforward format of it.
Okay. What is your goal as a disciple?
To follow Jesus and to help others follow Jesus.
Right. And then that would segue to the next question, like in discipling others, right? Is that the main thing that you would call someone that's trying to be a disciple?
Yeah. I think that for me, a disciple is a follower of Christ, and meaning that you want to become like Christ. I think a disciple is someone who's seen Jesus as king and wants to be in his kingdom. You've seen Jesus as king and you want to be in his kingdom. And then Jesus says, teach them what I have said. So I'm teaching you what Jesus said, Obviously there's relational elements of it. There's cultural elements of it. There's generational elements of it. But at the fundamental core of it, I'm teaching you what Jesus said and how to apply his word. And I think people need that. People need discipleship. Do you read your Bible with people? Do you pray with people? Do you bring people to outreach? There comes a point where you're functioning good as a Christian and you're coming, but now I'm like, who are you bringing? Who are you helping to be? It comes a point where it's like, yeah, you're here. Okay, great. You come every service. That's good. Now, who are you helping? Who are you bringing?
Who's going to replace you?
Yeah. Who are you helping? And I think people, I tell you a brief story. We had great people in our church. They've been with me for years. And after a while, they started to really struggle with a lot of things. And I was sitting down with them, and as I would listen to them talk, I was like, these people are nothing like me. They don't value what I value. And I was thinking, but they come to every service I put on, and they come to all the revivals and every conference. And indirectly, I felt that what I overemphasized, it should be emphasized, but maybe overemphasized, is that they're coming to all the events that I'm putting on, but they're not becoming like me. And it wasn't until I started to spend time with them and show them from the Bible why I do what I do, why I live how I live, This is bigger than any organization. This is from the Bible. This is Jesus. Look what he says here. This is why I'm willing to do this, or this is why I don't go there, or I don't do that. And I realized when I was starting to do that, people would grow quicker, people would grow more solid, they could go through things, and then they could pass it on to others. So I shifted from just trying to get people to the church and help people to get through the church. You come in and then you get saved, you know Jesus, and then when you get discipled, and then through that you're in ministry and you're growing, and then you become a disciple making disciples, and then either you're going to go out and become a missionary or a pastor or an evangelist, or you're going to stay here, but you're going to continue to help us make disciples no matter where you are in your calling, so to speak.
Okay. So I guess to tie one and one together, you have your disciples, they're doing the best they can as someone yearning to be a disciple under your leadership as well. Then they start dating. When a disciple starts dating and they have a calling, they've mentioned this calling to you, and you two are working together to fulfill that calling, right? They start dating. How do you keep them focused? Because I'm sure that distraction is a possibility, right? You're trying to marry the girl of your dreams, or you're trying to be eligible to get sent out, right?
Yep.
But how do you keep them focused?
I think that's part of life. I think, when you get married, you still got to stay focused. You have children? Yeah. How many have you got, 2 or 3? 3. You still got to be focused.
Yeah.
There's always going to be things.
Yeah.
And so just keep making it about Jesus. It's part of being a mature person. If you're unable to focus on Jesus while you're dating, then I don't want to say this, I don't want to blanket thing, but look, you can do it. Just do it. Let me just say that. I don't want to tell anybody not to date or date, but just do it. It's like you can do it. Stay focused on Jesus. I'll say this much, and then you guys can process it however you want. I'm wary of somebody dating someone and then you have to pull back from everything you was doing before you was dating. I'd be wary from that. I understand you get married, you have children, you have to juggle some things. That's a different element altogether, but you're still single, you're just dating.
Yeah.
If dating relationship with this person is drawing out so much resource and time out of you, and with me and my wife, we didn't have to pull back at all because we were already doing all these things together. She was already doing those things, going on outreach.
She was just as busy as you were.
Yeah. And so we do it together. Admittedly, our church was, a lot of things were done together. Some of the things she would come to the prayer meeting that we would have. We'd have different prayer meetings at different people's houses. So she came to that, but she was still going to her own Bible study. And I think as well, for me, again, I think we've got to be very careful of trying to squeeze a worldly dating model into our spiritual discipleship, where we've always got to be romantic. We've always got to be spending time together. Like the more time we spend together, the more... No, I think you have to spend quality time where you have to be asking questions. Sometimes looking at how that person reacts in a crowd can tell you just as much as when you're alone with them. If you're a woman, how does he treat other women? How does he treat his family? How does he treat
his mother?
Yeah, all of these
respect
things.
Her?
Yeah, how does she treat other women? How does she respond with other women? All of these things could be showing you how does she worship in church? How does she treat a pastor? How does she serve the congregation? Because if she doesn't submit to the pastor, she doesn't serve the congregation, she doesn't get on with her family, maybe there's an issue here. Maybe. I'm not telling anybody to do anything, but maybe. So these are things that you can look at and learn from. But if you're just staring over a candlelight into each other's eyes, you might not be learning that much.
Yeah, it's going to be very difficult to find that kind of stuff.
That's good. I'm not saying don't do that. That's good. Have that,
I mean, I'm sure we look
the Grinch.
We love candles on this podcast.
Yeah. How dare you go on a date? The world is going to hell.
No, we want them to date, and we want them to have a good time, and obviously we want people to get married in church, but just to be able to navigate that with confidence and wisdom, right? I'm sure it would be an asset to a disciple who's yearning to get sent out one day and preach the gospel alongside their wife, Not sure if you wanted to chime in on that question in regards to discipleship.
I just think I pretty much agree with everything you're saying. I think
Me too.
If you get caught up in that, you don't get locked into Jesus. And so I don't have a question. I just want to agree with you. So I totally agree with you. But I did want to ask you, so what are you looking for in a disciple before you launch him out?
Dominion.
So what do you mean by that?
It starts from within. Does he have dominion over his own life? Does he have dominion over his own passions, lust, money, timekeeping? Does he have dominion over his own life first? Do we see that dominion flow out in a job? Do we see some level of mastery flowing outward? I think you let Christ rule over you to gain dominion. I don't look at pornography because Christ reigns over me. If Christ wasn't reigning over me, I'd be the worst pervert. But Christ reigns over me. He's my king. The kingdom of God is within us. That's why I'm not fighting everybody that cuts me up on the road. That's why I'm not. It's an inner dominion, and then through that you have an outer dominion. You go into the workplace. You start to succeed. You start to become an asset to the workplace. They start to see what you touch is fruitful. It's producing things. And in the church, we give you a ministry and it's starting to produce something. We make you the head of this or the leader of that or involved in this. And it's the dominion of God is now producing fruit. And then out of that, you're making disciples. People come around you. When you speak about the Bible, they get edified. They learn. You're imparting strength. You inspire people. You make Jesus bigger than when they first thought about him. That's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for dominion.
Okay. And so I guess in closing, I just wanted to ask you, where do you, your church, where do you see your church maybe 5 years from now? What do you want to see? Where do you want to take your church as far as world evangelism, discipleship, things like that?
We'd like to have a building like this. That'd be nice.
Yeah.
That'd be very nice. I think twofold. I would like a building. Resources. We'd like the resources to have our own building. We've got a great facility that we use Sundays and Wednesdays, but there's so much talent and great people in Wandsworth. They've got so many ideas and so many things they want to do. We are limited by the building. And so, we could be doing things twice a day. We just got great people in the church. They're amazing. I cannot say enough good things about the people in my church. So a building would be wonderful, or just the resources to do that. I think we've sent out churches now. And so we're starting to see disciples rise up in those baby churches where very soon guys will go out from those baby churches.
Yeah, amen.
We'll get sent out to see more baby churches really tap into that and become leaders of leaders. And then world evangelism is going to be another thing. I just came out of the conference. I really felt stirred and challenged for world evangelism. And then I think coming here as well has really, it's almost like it fitted together well. What God was speaking to me in the conference, and then coming here and seeing, this is a big church, but though it's a big church, I feel that it's punching above its weight when it comes to world evangelism. I think it's powerful. It's so inspiring seeing what God has done here through you guys and Pastor Roman and just being around him. So I think that's something that over the next 5 years, I'd like to have a building. I'd like our baby churches to plant churches, and I'd like for us to be in, more than a few nations.
Yeah.
And I think God will do it. It will.
Absolutely.
If the Lord tarries, we will see it come to fruition by his grace. It's all Jesus. yeah, I'm just along for the ride. God is doing it. Just got to follow him, and I'm just trying my best not to mess it up. Get out of his way.
Absolutely.
No, that's definitely going to happen. That's definitely going to happen. Well, that concludes this episode of the Gen Lit podcast. Is there any last words that you'd like to share with our viewers before we...
Just appreciate it. Really appreciate the invitation from Pastor Roman coming to the church. I appreciate you guys and seeing what you're doing. Keep it up. You're inspiring us. That's it. God bless.
Awesome. That's it for this episode of the Gen Lit podcast. Tune in next time. Thank you.